Well, Martinsville has been known for spectacular moments that have had a huge influence on who wins championship, and tonight was no different, except it wasn't in the spectacular, dramatic fashion that we've seen out of previous moments here. Instead, what happened tonight is being marred by controversy with race manipulation by manufacturers and by a controversial NASCAR officiating decision made on a move made by Christopher Bell in the final corner to transfer himself into the next round. I'll go through all of that and offer a general recap of the race and some further thoughts on how I'm feeling about all of this and how much of the NASCAR racing community is feeling about this. Martinsville Speedway in Virginia has hosted the NASCAR Cup Series penultimate event every year since 2020. Started off with a bang in 2020 with NASCAR's most popular driver earning a win that ultimately led to him winning the championship the next weekend. Kevin Harvick also made a spectacular move on the last lap there to try to make the championship 4 and ultimately failed, but the fans were raving about it. They loved it. So the event came back in 2021 in the same spot on the calendar, and Denny Hamlin and Alex Bowman collided racing for the win, leading to some post-race fireworks between the two, as Bowman went on to win and Denny Hamlin was put with his back against the wall late in the race, trying to ultimately make it to the championship. In 2022, we saw what has gone down as one of the most historic, most spectacular moments in the history of NASCAR, in the move known as the Hail Melon, where Ross Chastain put his car around the outside wall in turns 3 and 4 on the last lap and passed enough cars to transfer into the championship 4 in Phoenix the next weekend. And now we have tonight, which was equally as dramatic as these moments, but definitely not spectacular in the same sense those were. Instead, what happened tonight was set up by blatant race manipulation by both Toyota and Chevrolet, and a controversial officiating decision made by NASCAR on a move made by Christopher Bell. So I'm going to go into some details about that and just whole race in general. So Ryan Blaney ended up winning the race for the second year in a row to punch his ticket to the championship 4 in Phoenix. He won it in very similar fashion this year to how he did last year. Kind of erasing a big lead late in the race. He is just that much faster than everybody, and ultimately passed Chase Elliott for the win with about 15 to go and set sail. Won the race. It's an incredible drive by Ryan Blaney, and it definitely proved his worthiness of an opportunity to back up his championship from last year. It was just an incredible drive, very well earned win, and definitely glad to see him representing the sport as one of the championship finalists. So that made it 3 cars in the championship 4, as Joey Logano won at Las Vegas a couple weeks ago, and Tyler Reddick won at Homestead last weekend. So both of those guys were already locked in. And Blaney locked himself in with that win tonight, so that left 1 spot to be decided on points. And going into the final laps, William Byron was only up by 1 point on Christopher Bell. And in the event of a tiebreaker, Christopher Bell held the tiebreaker on William Byron. So Byron could not afford to lose any more spots, and his whole team was aware of that. The entire Chevrolet manufacturer was aware of that, and they made sure that wasn't going to happen. Chevrolet had some sort of communication with the number 3 team of Austin Dillon and the number 1 team of Ross Chastain, who were 7th and 8th at the time, right behind the 6th place car of William Byron. There's some sort of radio transmission essentially relaying to Austin Dillon and Ross Chastain that they are to not pass the 24 because he had not advanced to the championship 4, then there would presumably be some sort of consequences from Chevrolet if those two were to be the responsible parties for Byron not advancing. So despite Byron being much slower than both drivers at this point in the race, they decided to set up shop behind him and actually got side by side and just pretty much made a blockade behind the 24 so nobody else could get past him. Toyota saw this, and while this hasn't been definitively proven like the Chevrolet race manipulation, Bubba Wallace just kind of magically slowed down in the last couple of laps, which allowed Christopher Bell to get the spot he needed to advance to the championship 4 on a tiebreaker. Wallace came on the radio late in the race and said he thought he had a tire going down. He said after the race maybe something had broken in the car or something. But he came on the radio, said his tire was going down, and slowed down about 5 seconds a lap for those last couple of laps or so. And ultimately, Bell was able to catch him in the final set of corners and got past him to advance to the championship 4 on the tiebreaker. Me personally, I am not buying that Bubba Wallace had a flat tire. I don't think he had a flat tire. I think he was told by Toyota to slow down and let Christopher Bell have that spot so he would advance, as a result of what Chevrolet was doing with Austin Dillon and Ross Chastain to help William Byron advance. So Bell was able to get past Wallace, but he drove really hard into the final corner. It's like he's pulling a slide job like you see in dirt racing a lot, and pretty much slid through the corner, and midway through 3 and 4 he hit the wall, and he gassed it up along that wall coming off of the corner. Did not gain any more spots. He had passed the 23 of Wallace on corner entry, and Wallace stayed behind him, but he didn't pass any other cars. I think he actually got passed by a car while he was up against the wall, came across the line, and had won the tiebreaker against William Byron. Well, NASCAR essentially, in their decision to penalize Bell, equated his move to what Ross Chastain did at Martinsville a couple years ago, where Chastain essentially decided to say screw it and went flat out along the wall through the entire corner to pass several cars. It was not at all what happened with Christopher Bell tonight. Bell just drove in the corner, got really sideways, was practically wrecking through the whole corner, hit the wall, and just kind of stayed up there. I definitely don't agree with NASCAR's decision to penalize him. I don't feel like it's a safety risk, like the wording of their penalty says it is. So I'm definitely interested to hear further explanation from them on why that would be a penalty. And we've kind of seen other guys ride against the wall a little bit before and in somewhat similar moves and haven't gotten penalties. So I'm definitely interested to hear further explanation, but I feel like that move was totally fair game by Christopher Bell. The race manipulation part by both manufacturers, though, is definitely a problem. I understand Toyota kind of doing something to combat the pretty blatant race manipulation that was going on with Chevrolet. Two wrongs don't make a right. I was always raised in sports that you're better to lose fairly and lose graciously than win by being a cheater, rigging things, however you want to put it. And what happened tonight definitely goes against those principles for me, and I was very, very disappointed seeing that. I was listening to the scanner of Austin Dillon for pretty much the whole race because he's my favorite driver. So I was listening to his scanner, and he was having a really good run all day. Ran top 10 most of the race. Was very happy to see him running up front. But that's besides the point. So listening to his scanner, and his car kind of started to come in there in the final laps. He was a little bit faster than both Denny Hamlin and William Byron. And Hamlin managed to get around Byron kind of right as Dillon caught up to Hamlin. And Dillon was told on his radio that, not word for word, pretty much verbatim, that Byron could not lose another position, or else he'd be eliminated from the playoffs, and that Dillon was not supposed to pass the 24 of Byron, and that the car behind Dillon, the one of Ross Chastain, was also aware of the plan and was not supposed to pass Byron either. So there's definitely some sort of conversation that was had. I don't know, maybe it's before the race, or Chevy representatives talking with crew chiefs and spotters during the race, But there was some sort of plan that had already been set in stone for this kind of situation, and it was all being implemented there as that situation was unfolding. Um, so that was a pretty blatant example of race manipulation. It was pretty clearly said on the radio that that's what was going on. So there's proof there with Chevrolet. So I genuinely don't understand why there haven't already been any sort of penalties issued, but hopefully something comes later in the week. But at this point, I'm not holding my breath for that. I think Byron will be racing for a championship in Phoenix. I think is totally ridiculous considering what happened tonight. But what's done is done. At this point in terms of those kinds of decisions, where it gets much more subjective and much harder to really do anything is with the Bubba Wallace deal with Toyota, because he said he had a flat tire, or at least felt he had a tire going flat. He said after the race he thought maybe something broke on the car. So it's really just, in that situation, is really a he said she said type of deal. Because if a driver feels a tire going flat, that doesn't necessarily mean it's gone flat yet. So you can't even use like air pressures or any kind of metric on the tires post race to determine if he is being truthful or not. Because drivers may feel one thing in the car, but that may not actually be what's going on. Like I said earlier, I think Toyota told him to do something to let Bell get by him, and that was the excuse he came up with to make it look less obvious. Very much like the Clint Boyer Spingate deal with Michael Waltrip Racing back in 2013, where Clint Boyer and I think Brett Griffin was a spotter, that they were just having a conversation about how uncomfortable Clint was in the car, and then he suddenly spun out with a few laps to go, and it completely changed the whole playoff picture. Major penalties for that, and this whole deal, specifically on the Toyota side of things, Bubba Wallace, it very much resembles that. To me, but this situation as a whole is drastically worse than what happened there at Michael Waltrip Racing. It's not even close. But with it being Hendrick Motorsports, and we know how much NASCAR has tended to favor them through the years, I really doubt that anything is going to be done to have any sort of significance on the championship or anything. What I would have done if I were in NASCAR shoes is, after reviewing all of this radio chatter and everything, there would not have been any kind of penalty for the wall ride by Christopher Bell. But I think both drivers would have either been relegated to the last spot on the respective laps they were on, which would have allowed Kyle Larson to advance, I believe. Although Bell may have still advanced over Larson, actually. I'm not 100% sure on that. Yeah, I think Bell actually would have advanced over Larson. I don't know. I think maybe disqualifying both drivers would have been appropriate, although the drivers weren't directly responsible for any of the race manipulation that took place. So that may be wrong. But some sort of decision would have been made where neither of those two would be racing for the championship. If that meant disqualifying them both from the race so Kyle Larson advanced, that would be fine. Or as a sanctioning body, I would have decided after the race, you know what, we're just not going to have a fourth driver in the championship because of the way this played out. Because the other three cars that could have advanced were all either Chevys or Toyotas. So if you're letting one of them advance, you're still kind of rewarding one of those manufacturers for manipulating the race, and that definitely doesn't seem right. So I think the best decision to make would have been to just DQ those two drivers and made it a three-driver championship with Joey Logano, Tyler Reddick, and Ryan Blaney. That way Chevy and Toyota do not get rewarded at all for this pretty blatant race manipulation on both ends. I've seen a lot of opinions very much against NASCAR after this race, from media members, from fans, from other influencers across social media. NASCAR is getting blasted like I've never seen before on social media. People are very upset, are done with the sport, are saying it is a WWE-like circus with the gimmicks even some of the rigging that goes on with these races, and that it can't be taken seriously as a world-class motorsport, which really sucks because I think NASCAR offers the best racing product of any motorsport out there. The racing is incredible, drivers are extremely talented, but stuff like this is what's going to continue to set NASCAR back. And they continue to do this to themselves like they have for the last 20 plus years. It's very disappointing to see the sport, all the incredible racing, all the incredible moments that have happened in this sport, to just continue to shoot itself in the foot and continue to run fans off. And I know many people like myself are genuinely questioning tonight why in the world we've continued to support this complete circus of a sport the way we have over the years. I started watching in 2011 when I was a little kid, and I loved it from the first race I watched. Loved it even more after I attended my first race, and anybody who's a diehard fan like me knows being a NASCAR fan isn't just casually watching a race on Sunday and that's it. It's an entire lifestyle. I've really grown up in this sport, made so many incredible friends, attended a lot of great races, and it's a part of who I am. But NASCAR today is not at all the sport I fell in love with as a little kid, and I really just hate to see the path it's going down. In the sense of things like what happened tonight, because I think there's so many good things that are going on in the sport right now. I mean, that finish in Atlanta, picture right here, right behind me. Took that picture myself. There's been things like that and some other incredible moments this year that have really shown just how great NASCAR is, and some of the really good things that are going on in the sport right now. So, I know a lot of people like to talk a lot bad about the next gen car, but I really think there's a lot of good about it. It's an incredible race car, and I just think it needs some fine tuning to be the absolute perfect NASCAR Cup car. It's almost there, and I think we saw that today in Martinsville, with a really solid Martinsville race. So we've all complained a lot about short track product the last couple of years, and to their credit, they often don't listen, but NASCAR has listened to some extent and got Goodyear to make a much softer tire where there would be fall off. And we saw that today, and I saw similar comments to how I felt on social media, how I felt about the race, and I was scrolling social media tonight about how that really just felt like a traditional Martinsville race that especially many of us younger fans have grown up watching. The way Martinsville has been the last 15 to 20 years. We haven't really had a so-called traditional Martinsville race over the last 2 to 3 years with the next gen car. And we had that today. Very refreshing. It was a great race to watch. You had a lot of comers and goers, and while it was challenging to pass, it wasn't impossible. If you were fast enough, you could definitely make your way through the field. Kyle Larson and Ryan Blaney both did that, and it really is made for a really intense and exciting race to watch, and all of that is going to be overshadowed by this controversy, and I feel like we've seen those kinds of deals happen so often, and it's really just such a shame. Those are pretty much my thoughts about what happened tonight. Just kind of wrap it all up. What happened tonight is just completely unacceptable. It's never okay to manipulate a race like that, whether it's teammates, guys with the same manufacturer, whatever. It's never okay. And anybody who participates in that or who's a beneficiary of that should be punished to the fullest extent that NASCAR can. Because William Byron transferring to the championship off of what took place tonight, it doesn't feel right, and it really makes championship even more illegitimate than it already is with this kind of playoff format for NASCAR to let something like that go. I'll say right now that I'll say right now that I like William Byron all right. you know, he's not one of my favorite drivers, but I don't dislike him or anything. I will definitely be rooting against him in Phoenix. So you don't want to see the championship tainted with somebody winning the title off of something like what happened tonight. And you know, lastly, I feel bad for Christopher Bell and William Byron as much as I'm disgusted by everything. You know, these guys did not ask for their manufacturers to manipulate the race. You know, they're out there doing their own thing, and just kind of got thrown in the middle of an unfortunate situation, and are getting blasted for everything that took place. But I think those guys themselves, not necessarily their teams. Their teams are guilty parties for sure, but the individual drivers there, I think, are as innocent of victims as anybody else, as anybody in this whole situation. But you have to uphold some integrity in the sport, and allowing that 24 car to still run for a championship next weekend, despite everything that took place tonight, is utterly embarrassing and unacceptable. So that's all I've really got to say on the race. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you guys haven't already, hit that subscribe button below. I'm hoping to post on here more often throughout the 2025 racing seasons. I really enjoy doing this, but the life of a college student definitely hits you sometimes. I've got a shipping code, Turbo28 for CircleBDiecast.com and PlanBSales.com for any orders over $30. You will get $5 off of your shipping with that code. So especially as Black Friday sales come up and that kind of stuff, and they have some really good deals on those websites, definitely make sure to check them out. So again, it's CircleBDiecast.com and PlanBSales.com. Use code Turbo28 to get $5 off of your order of $30 or more. Also, go and support this brand, Dancing Dogs Ranch. It's a brand owned by my buddy Matthew. Incredible guy. Does a lot of great work, and makes some incredible hats and shirts and stuff. So definitely go and check out his site and all his products at DancingDogsRanch.com. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If y'all are watching the NASCAR Championship in Phoenix, and enjoy that. If y'all want to share your thoughts about what took place tonight, feel free to comment below, or come and follow our account on Twitter, or I guess X now, or Instagram, and we can definitely interact about this on there. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and y'all have a great night.